All right. Hey guys, this is Miss Sims. I will be with you guys next week. I start back on Wednesday, so I'll see you guys whenever you come next Monday and Tuesday. But I wanted to go ahead and do this video so that you guys can kind of be in the same spot as the B Day kids are. So let's go ahead and get started with the notes. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go over a small chunk of notes, and then you guys are going to look at some primary sources, a little quotes. We're starting a new unit. This unit is called Imperialism, and this is a really important unit. This is where the United States starts to look um, pretty modern. So it starts to look more like the United States that we know of today. And this time period and the decisions that are made during this time period are going to impact the way the rest of the world sees the United States, as well as how the United States sees itself. Okay. So I want you guys, you don't have to write this down. I know it says write your responses right here. Don't worry about that. I just want you to look at this political cartoon. Okay. And if I gave you this political cartoon, you didn't know anything about imperialism, you would be able to figure out sort of what imperialism means from this political cartoon. So I want you to take just a second. I want you to look at it, and I want you to see, okay, what is this cartoon telling me that imperialism is? If I don't know anything about imperialism, what clues can I get from this cartoon that are going to kind of tell me what it is? Okay. So look at it just for a second, and then I'll talk about it with you for about it. Okay, so the first thing I hope you kind of noticed was this giant eagle. And as you know, the eagle is the national bird. It's a symbol of the United States. And you see this eagle has its wings spread across this whole part of the world. Okay. And so, what that is kind of implying is that the United States is reaching from one part of the world to the other part of the world, and in some ways, going to have influence or power or say in a lot of different places. And so, we see some of these places are Manila, that's in the Philippines, Hawaii, the Samoan Islands, Puerto Rico. So, you're seeing that large wingspan, basically the United States is having this huge impact. So that's what we're going to see. This is the official definition for imperialism. So this is what you need to write. Okay. Um, I'll give you a second, and then I'm going to kind of explain what this means. Okay. So this says imperialism is the spreading of cultural, military, economic, and political influence to control other territories or lands. Okay, cultural means and you'll get some more specific examples in the next slide, but cultural means that the way that we think, we want other countries to think that way. And so that's going to look like our religion, how we view morals. So, like what's right and what's wrong, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. That's all part of our culture. Even language is a part of our culture. And we're going to see that is still has a big impact today. So, cultural, we want other places to kind of think like we do. Military, so we want to have like military power and control in those places. Economics, so that means like money. You're going to see that means that we are going to get resources, whether that's land or crops or different things like that from other territories or land. And then political influence. Political influence means like power. So basically, we have a say in the way that territory or land is run, things like that. Okay. And you see this right here. This is what we would call like British imperialism in Africa. Okay, I believe this is Cecil Rhodes, but that's world history, so we're not going to get into that. But okay, so you are going to write these three. This is kind of breaking down that definition that we just looked at whenever we were talking about cultural, military, and economic power. And we also said political, but political power is going to come from these three things. Okay. So when we say economic, remember that it means money. So if whenever you hear the word economic, it doesn't really mean anything to you, go ahead and draw like a dollar sign right here beside economic to kind of remind you that this means money. Okay, so when I say access to resources, what I'm talking about is things like crops, things like maybe it could be timber, or maybe it could be things that come from a mine like gold or silver or things like that. One of the big ones that we're going to get during this time period is land for growing sugar. Okay, so we're going to see that in Hawaii. We're going to see that some in Puerto Rico, some of that in Cuba, some of those areas. Okay, Hawaii also has like land to grow like pineapples and things like that, and we'll get into that in the coming days. Access to new markets. Okay, what that means is you have access to people who will buy your stuff. Okay, so like say the United States is making I don't know, I can't give a historical example because my brain's not working right now. But say we're making a bunch of cars. Okay, at this time period they're not making a bunch of cars, it's too early, but for today, like we're looking for new markets today in 2021. Like that means that we want other people to buy our cars. So we basically, new market means we want someone else to buy the stuff that we're making. And then better trade. Basically, if we have this special relationship with this territorial land, then we won't have to pay as much for the things that we want from them, or the things that we want them to buy from us. Okay, so that's kind of all the different parts or facets of economic. Okay. All right. Military. This should make a little bit more sense. There is this man, Admiral Mahan. He is one, think of it kind of like a general, but it's in the Navy. He basically wants the U.S. to be a superpower. And this is going to be the time period that the United States like becomes this big time power. Okay. Him and then Teddy Roosevelt. So if you ever see TR, that's what I mean. It's Teddy Roosevelt. This is before he becomes president. He is a Navy man, and then he's going to become president in the middle of this. He was actually a vice president, but the president at the time was killed, and so he's going to become the president. So, anyways, these two guys, Admiral Mahan and Teddy Roosevelt, are going to be big on the United States having a big military presence. And we'll talk about this later, but Teddy Roosevelt famously said that we should speak softly and carry a big stick, which basically means we don't have to yell at everybody, be this like really intense country, but we need to have a big old stick. So if somebody messes with us, we can whack them over the head. And in his mind, he's talking about the Navy. So basically, we need naval bases all around the world. Okay. So think of these as kind of like gas stations for our big ships. Okay. Also, this is when the Panama Canal is going to be created, and it's going to make going around, buzzing around South America a lot more easy. And then just expanding our naval fleet. And so you have to understand during this time period, the reason the Navy is the big deal is there aren't airplanes. Okay. So the way that you get to other places, if you are not connected by land, is using your Navy, using your ships. Okay. So that's why the Navy is such a big deal during this time period. So like today, the Navy is important, but we also get around using airplane, like planes. Planes don't exist during this time period. So we're not there yet. So that's what we're thinking about Navy. Okay. And then the third one is cultural. We kind of talked about that. The two big ones here is this idea of racial superiority. This is going to be called, we'll look at something that's called the white man's burden. So really this cultural idea is making the rest of the world look like the West, which is white, Christian, and democratic. Okay. And when I say Christian, I'm talking about Protestant. I'm not talking about Catholicism. We're talking about Protestant. Okay. And this is going to be this is kind of difficult to look at, if you, specifically the Christian part, if you are a person of faith, that practices the Christian faith. This can be a little bit difficult to look at. There's some things that were not great that were done during this time period, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But racial superiority, specifically talking about pushing the white race, that doesn't necessarily have to do with any religion, but it's gonna get kind of ugly pretty fast, and you're gonna see that in some of the political cartoons, and a lot of those ideas are still around today. And then democratic, basically pushing these other nations to have a political system that looks like ours, so democracy. And then this idea of social Darwinism. So I don't know if you remember from science, Darwinism is called survival of the fittest. So social Darwinism, basically, this is where some people said, you know what, if we as a nation, the United States of America, are strong enough to take other nations, we deserve it. Like, they deserve to be defeated if we can take them. Okay. So that is kind of where the idea of social Darwinism comes. Okay. And to be clear, not everyone thought these things right here. Like, some people thought this, and then some people thought that. But that's going to be kind of the general idea at the time period. Okay. And then the last slide. This is kind of like the spoiler alert. I'm telling you the end before we even get there. This is what's going to come out of imperialism. Okay. So by the time that we finish this unit, this is what is going to end up happening. We're going to talk about these in more depth kind of as we go forward. But for this unit, I think it's easier to kind of know what the end result is. Okay. So at the end of this unit, during imperialism, the United States is going to gain some new territories. Okay. This is when we get Hawaii. This is when we get the Philippines. The Philippines we're going to give back after World War II, but we basically are going to have that as a territory until the 40s, 1940s, and we're in the late 1800s right now. Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is still a territory, so people that are born in Puerto Rico are U.S. citizens. Guam, still a territory, and Alaska is going to be acquired as well. We're going to buy Alaska, and so we'll see that. By the end of this unit, through imperialism, the United States is going to be a major world power, and we are going to become more involved in major world events. And so we're going to start getting involved in some smaller things. Some like the Spanish-American War is going to happen, and it's going to kind of conclude with World War One. Okay, the Panama Canal is going to get built, and we are going to have control over that until I believe it was around 2000, whenever that was given back to Panama. And speaking of Panama, Panama doesn't exist at the beginning of this unit. It was a part of Colombia, the nation, and then at the end of it, it does exist. We'll talk about that later. And the United States is going to expand its navy, and this is called the Great White Fleet. And this is a super creative name because the ships were painted white. So that's why they called it the Great White Fleet. And then the next thing is the United States is going to be a major economic powerhouse. Okay. So we are going to have quite a bit of influence when it comes to the economy. And so a lot of people are like, well, duh, we're awesome, blah, 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 blah. Well, today we have a lot of influence, but we didn't always. So this is the time period when that starts. So like today, 2021, the United States has the biggest economy in the whole wide world. That wasn't true before the late 1800s. So these are the events that lead to that. Okay. All right, so that is it for the notes. So, what you guys are going to work on in just a second with Miss Smith is going to be, where did it go? Sorry. Yes. Oh, here it is. This is called Motivations of Imperialism. So what you guys are going to do with this is, with Miss Smith, you're going to read this quote right here, and then you'll answer these questions. And there are actually 3 different quotes here. And so this kind of looks at what is causing imperialism to happen, like what is encouraging people to do that. So Josiah Strong, this one is going to be kind of the cultural push. This is Mahan, so this is the military push, and this is Beveridge. He's trying to be a senator, and so this is more a political thing. Okay, so you guys are going to do that with Miss Smith. All right, and that is all for today. And I'm going to record another video for tomorrow. And tomorrow we'll explain what you guys are going to do on your remote days on Thursday and Friday. All right, thanks, guys. See you next Monday.